Hello, my name is Mildly Gothic. Welcome to my channel. The weird glow that you see is coming from these. We'll get to those in a second. But if you're new here, what I like to do is a variety of artsy kind of content. I think I've done everything. I've done painting, sculpting, baking, jewelry. There's a lot of other stuff coming. And today is another something different. And today we're going to be doing crochet. And if you're not new, hi, thanks for sticking around. Welcome back. Also, hopefully the audio quality will be better. We're gonna see how this works. But so what we're doing today is I had an idea a while ago to take string lights. And you know how you can buy the ones that already have like little shapes on them? Well, that's not as fun. So what I wanted to do was crochet some little things to go on it. And I have some actually. I've been working and I've made patterns so far. I've got little ghosts. And I've got little candy corns, and oh no, the end I put them on is of course the end that's far away from me, so here, so, you know, they're not gonna be super bright, but you can see the light through them, and I think it's super cute. So if you notice, I have some of these made already. And so what today is gonna be is I'm actually gonna try to do a crochet tutorial, and I'm gonna try, there's the candy corn. I'm going to try to show you guys how to make this candy corn and the ghost. Now, these are only 2. I actually have 6 designs total planned for this strand, and this might not be the final strand I use. These do get warm, and so I am looking into getting LEDs just in case. But this is a fun strand of Halloween lights. But today's going to be a tutorial. I'm going to show these 2, and then I'm going to have 2 other videos that go through the process for the other ones. And the other little doodads that I'm planning. I've got a skull, a bat, a spider, ghost, candy corn, skull, bat, spider. I've suddenly forgotten what the last one is. Pumpkin! Pumpkin. The last one's gonna be a pumpkin. I debated things like coffins or some other stuff, which maybe if I keep the crochet thing up, but I've got 5 of the ghosts and 5 of the little candy corns, and eventually at the end of all of these videos I will have the strand of lights covered in them, which I think is gonna be super super cute. But yeah, it's just gonna be a tutorial. So no like process or what I did, because I went through a process. I made these patterns. The reason I have so many of these is I was mucking around with, so not all of these are, you know, identical, but that doesn't matter. I'm showing you guys the final product and how I made what I consider to be the best version. And so I'm gonna show you guys that now. And I'll put the steps in the description as far as the rows and the stitches. I do believe for the most part they are legitimate crochet stitch names. There's only one that's involved for this guy. And there are probably better ways that I could have created these patterns. And there's also probably different crochet stitches I could have used. Here's the thing. I really picked up crocheting about, when did the pandemic start? 3-ish years ago, 2-3 years ago. Because I started with these little triceratopses. I can put some pictures up. And so all of the stitches that you will hear me do throughout any of these patterns are limited pretty much exclusively to ones I know from that pattern, because I've gotten really, really good at it. And luckily crochet is just kind of like a weird, you're sculpting with yarn. And so as long as you have a general idea of how to increase your number of stitches and decrease, I feel like you can actually do almost anything with it. And so while they may not be the cleanest or the prettiest, I've got these figured out, and I'm going to show you how to make them. So, with all that said, let's get to it. To make the candy corn, we're going to start on the bottom with the yellow and then build our way up. Here are 3 examples of ones that I've already made. So we'll keep one of these on screen, probably the relatively pretty looking one. I haven't trimmed the tails yet, because I think that they might help me attach them to the lights in the final bit. But that's another story. So first thing we're going to do is we need a slip knot. And so what we're going to do is we are going to take our tail end and we are going to cross that So that is the strand that is going across and on top. We're going to bend, fold this over, and we're going to grab this string from the middle. I'm going to grab that and we're going to pull that through. You do not need a long tail for this one at all. You're just going to end up, cutting it. It'll be hidden on the inside. So you want to pull that relatively close to your hook. And I apologize if this isn't the easiest color to see. This is the only yellow that I have. So first things first, we are going to chain 5. And so a chain, you just wrap your yarn around the hook and pull it through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so what's important to note here is that you can see, your outside loops, because these are little pockets. They're hollow in the middle, because we're going to stick the lights through them. So our next step is we're going to turn, and not this first loop that we have, but the next one over. We're going to do single crochets into those. And so a single crochet, very simply, you put your hook under the loop or loops, grab, pull your yarn through, you're going to loop around again, and pull your yarn through. So we're going to do 4 of those on these side of the loops. Once you do those 4, we notice we're at the knot end. We are going to chain 1. So we're just going to pull 1 through, and we're going to turn it. And you want your tail to be on the back side. It's going to fold, and that's going to be the inside. So now you'll see we have another 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the outside of the original loops that we had. I will do my best to stay in frame. And so what we're going to do is, this is our first loop. You find our knot. This is our first loop. We are going to do another 4 single crochets into these loops now. So 1, 2, 3, and we want to make sure we only catch that outside loop right there. 3 and 4. Perfect. Once we finish that last one, we are again going to chain 1. This will give us should give us a total of 10 around. And so what you can see now, if we pull that, is we're going to fold it, and we want the tail to be captured on the inside. So you're going to fold it like a little taco. Okay, so get our hook back in. And the next thing we're going to do is basically do another row all the way around. So we're going to full crochets, which means you're going to go into both loops that you see. I really hope it's focusing. I am so sorry. So we're going to go into both loops, and we're going to do 9 of these. I have a tendency to crochet super tight, so that's what that is, unfortunately, is it makes it a little hard to pull through. You do actually want to be relatively loose with these because you want the light to be able to shine through, so do not be afraid to be a little loose with your stitches. I promise you it'll be okay. So after 9, we're back around, and you can see we're starting to get a little basket shape. This is the point where I would probably recommend cutting off that tail. You don't need that anymore. So now we're going to change colors. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to get our next color, which is going to be orange. You could arguably make the candy corn any color you wanted. So we're going to take our orange. Here, maybe I should have done this from the beginning. Look at how close and nice that is. Okay. So what we're going to do is our next stitch is this one right here. These two. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross this color on top of our working yarn. You see that? But we're still going to hook and grab this one first. So, and you can have an excessive tail. So just like we normally would, we're going to go into our next stitch. And again, I crochet very tightly, so these ones on the end do not like to cooperate. Hi. Please get my... Wow, wonderful tutorial that's happening right here. This is where I recommend crocheting loosely. Okay, so once we go through, we are going to pull with our same color. So we're going to pull through with our yellow, because that is the color we are still currently working with. And make sure that we pull that through without any extra... Oh lord. There we go. Okay. So we've still got our 2 yellow loops, and at this point I would recommend pulling these 2 loops relatively tight. So we've got our yellow, and if you'll notice, our orange, our orange is now kind of secured in the back. So what we're going to do now is you want to twist this, and you're going to grab your orange yarn and use that to pull through. So now our orange yarn is our working yarn. So once you've switched for the orange, we're gonna do single crochets for 10 around. Typically you wanna work the yellow in for at least 1 more, and so that just means basically going around it so that it sits and lies even and is basically incorporated into the project. And once you've switched your colors, you can go ahead and cut this yellow off. So we don't need that anymore. If you wanted, sometimes people like to tie these 2 together if you really want a more secure connection inside the piece. So that was our first orange, so now we've got 9 more. 1, and try not to crochet your own hair into your project. 9 and 10. Okay. So once you have your row of orange, you can kind of re-mess with your base. You should have this nice little looking boat here, and you can see how we're building up the base of this candy corn. And so after that single 10, things get a little bit more complicated from here, because now we're going to start making the angle up. So the first stitch that we have in our new row, I would also recommend trimming your orange so that it hides a little bit better. You just want that in there. So the first stitch of this next row is what's called an invisible decrease. And so that's where we're going to take the front loops of our next 2 stitches, and we're going to go under like this, just through the front one, and then under again. So you have the front loops of 2 stitches. So you have 3 on your hook. You're gonna take your yarn and you're going to go through those top 2 stitches and then finish it with a single crochet. And so what that has essentially done is we have reduced our stitch count. So we've gone from 10 to 9. So what we're gonna do is this is now our next stitch, and we're going to single crochet 2. So we've got 1, 2. All right, and so now we have another invisible decrease. So again, we go under our front, and we're going to make sure we pull it through those, and then pull that through. Right. And you can see already how we're starting to get that angle on the side. So just flip it over, and now we're going to single crochet for 3. Okay, and so this is our next stitch. You can see kind of what was hooked into this last stitch, and so that tells you that this next one is the stitch that you want to continue. All right, so we're technically on another row. We have done 2 invisible decreases, so we should now have a total of 8 stitches. So the start to our next row is another invisible decrease. 1, 2, just like that. And we're going into this stitch. We're going to single 2. All right, and at this point, we are now where we want to switch to the white, the very top part of our candy corn. So it's going to be into this stitch here. And so let's get our white. This is where it's probably going to get a little bit hard to see, and I apologize. So again, we're going to place our white across and over our working yarn. We're going to go into our stitch like normal. I recommend sticking your finger in the candy corn if you're having a hard time holding it at this point, because I promise you, I do. So go in, and we want to make sure around the white, because we want to grab the orange and pull that through. So pull our orange nice and tight. We're going to twist and grab our white and pull through. And so we are now working with the white. And so our first thing with the white is we are going to single crochet for 2. So we're going to come here. And you want to make sure when you're working in this small, you don't want to grab your tail, you want to grab your new working yarn. And remember, we're going to work that orange in for our next immediate stitch. So we're going to do 1, and then you can just pull the orange to the back to get it out of the way. And then 2. And now we're going to do one more invisible decrease on this edge here. Ooh, too many things. There we go. And pull that through. Alright, and I'm gonna pause and trim these real quick. Just make sure those get in there. And so now we're going to single 3. And so this is where it gets a little hard to reach into the center of the candy corn, because it's now so small. 1, 2, 3. So sometimes, if you want, I would recommend you could do another invisible decrease here. It does depend on probably the size of the lights and how much white you want at the top of your candy corn, but it doesn't hurt, and it looks, arguably, I should just include it in the pattern, to just finish off with one more invisible decrease, and then trim some length off, and just finish and pull that through. So you now have a little candy corn. And what we can do is, so these are the lights I currently have. I'm actually looking to get some LEDs to avoid the issue of these getting hot. I don't currently have them plugged in, but you can see that was just a little bit of finagling. Once you get the candy corn on, then you can, stretch and adjust it as you want, but it fits perfectly over these lights. So there's the candy corn. Okay, so now we are moving on to the ghosts. So I've got a bunch of them here. As you can see, their eyeballs are all sorts of different shapes, which is fine. Some of them have small eyeballs, some of them have big ones. And again, these are designed to go over the lights, and so I debated doing the ghosts that have little arms, but I thought for the lights that this would be cuter. So, as you can see, I've done a lot of them. These are probably the easiest of the patterns that I'll be doing. So, the ghost starts with an interesting technique that I learned that I do not remember who created it. It is another crochet YouTuber, but they call it the magic loop. And so how we're gonna start is you're going to take it, and I typically do it over one finger, but if you find it easier, I might do 2. And so I have my tail in my right hand. This is my working yarn. And so we're going to go 1, 2. And so we have 3 loops on our fingers. 3 loops on our fingers. The tail is off that way. And what we're going to do is we're going to, and I would recommend just securing the tail. We're gonna go under these with our hook. We're going to grab our working yarn, pull it under, and then you're going to grab this again, and you are going to pull it through. So this is now made a loop. This technique is supposed to be an easier way of beginning to crochet in the round. And so once you have that, we are going to do 8 stitches. And so we're going to do a stitch by going through the middle, grab your yarn, pull it around, hook your working yarn again and pull it through. And so keep track of your tail in this, but so that was 1. And so make yourself a nice large loop so you can just, you know, save where you were and not have to worry about it. So the next thing that we're gonna do is shrink this, because this opening definitely doesn't look like the top of this, but it will. 8 was chosen for a specific reason, to make sure that this opening was still large enough for us to get one of those lights through. So you're going to pull the tail gently. Might need a little bit of force, and you'll notice one of these 2 strands start to move. This one. You want to note the end that it was being pulled, you know, the direction it was being pulled. You want to grab the opposite, and you want to start pulling on that. And what you should notice is the other strand is going to start to disappear, and you're closing the circle. So you don't want it to get completely closed. I'd say about there is good. Once you get it to how you want it, you're going to pull your tail to finish it. And yes, this means you end up with a long tail, but it's fine. So just keep track of where your tail is. Do not end up working with it. You can put your hook back in, and we're going to pull that tight. So again, we're gonna look at these loops here, and there is what I'm gonna call a front loop and a back loop. The back loop is the whatever direction you've just stuck your tail is the back. And that's actually where we're going to start our next process. We're going to do 8 back loop singles. So we're going to only go into the back loop, and that's what's gonna help us get this downward projection of our yarn. So it can be a little hard to tell, and if you're ever having any issues, the easiest way that I find to count stitches is to look at the bumps. So you just wanna count, you know, around and find your 8. So that's my first stitch there. And it's okay if it's a little bit of a jump from where you are. You can just make that a little bit bigger. So my first, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this stitch, this hidden little back loop is going to be our first. And so we're going to go into that back loop, do a single, and there we go. And now we're gonna keep going into the back loop of our first 8 stitches. Okay, once you have those 8, the next pattern is a single and then an increase. And you're gonna repeat that 4 times. So first we're gonna do a single, and so that's just, you're gonna go through both loops of the next stitch, and you're gonna do a single. And an increase is basically 2 singles into the same hole. So if this is our next stitch, we're going to go under, and we're going to do 1, and then without moving into this same stitch, you're going to do another 1. And so now we have increased our stitch count by 1. So once again, we're going to do a single, and then we're going to do an increase. So 1, 2. This should get you to a total of 12 stitches. Okay, you can always count your stitches and just double check yourself. So, and I will say, if you are expecting me to switch to black, I will not be. The eyes get sewn on afterwards because I was a little lazy with these. But I think they're super cute. So, now that we have 12 stitches, we are going to do one full row of 12. We have increased to 12 stitches, now we're going to do a full row of 12. So that's just going to be singles. So okay, so you can see we have more of our bell shape. So this, we are actually almost done. The only thing we have left to do is give him these little frills on the bottom. And so how I achieve that, so remember, we have 12 stitches, and so we're going to repeat our pattern of doing something 4 times. And so this pattern is going to be 2 single stitches, and then what I'm calling a double increase. There may actually be a crochet, wow. There may actually be a crochet stitch name for it, other than double increase, and I magically might have guessed the actual name. I don't know, but this is what I'm calling it, and it worked, so we're going with it. So, we're going to do our first single 2. And then a double increase, to me, means you're going to do 4 stitches into this same spot. So, a double increase, because an increase means you add, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see how it starts curving? Arguably you could add more. I just decided 4 was good enough. These guys are so small. So we're gonna do 1, 2. And then once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So once you finished your last one, what I liked to do, and I did on all of my little samples, is I do another single, because I find that it just finishes the look and it makes it not quite as jarring. And then trim your yarn and pull it through. So now what I would also recommend doing, and you can do this with a darning needle or just using your crochet hook if you're lazy, but you want to make a knot here at the end with this yarn to pull it and make sure it's nice and flush basically with the edge of the ghost. So have a little yarn, and then you can cut that as close as you can. And so it's more blended. And also I meant to cut. I'm not cutting the ghost, he's just got scissors for eyes. So this next bit is kind of where it gets a little up to interpretation, because I don't know how to make it a legit thing. So what I like to do for the black is just get a length. I realize it's probably going to fade into my background here, but this is where I would get a darning needle. I just have a plastic one, which works just well. So just get it threaded one way or another. I apologize for the state of my nails. I work at a art studio. It's not really an art studio, workshop place where we do a lot of wood projects, and so this is stain that just wouldn't come off. But, so what you're gonna look for is, I like the look of the eyes kind of angled in towards each other. I think that's the cutest look. And so you're looking for a series of holes that will allow you to either get 2 vertical eyes, like right next to each other, Or if you wanted, you know, you could angle them and get a little bit more of an expression. I also typically go for, you want to figure out where you want his face to be. So, because you can see these holes right here would give you very angled eyes if that's what you're going for. But I think I'm gonna go, I think I'm gonna put his face right here. And so when you find where you want to start, you're gonna go put your yarn through a hole. You're not gonna tie it off. And then you want to just loop through these holes several times. So back into the same place you started the black and around. You want to build those eyes up a little bit and give them some substance. So once you've got one eye, you can just go on over to your next one very gently. There we go. And you're going to repeat that. So you're just going to pull this through a handful of times. And at this point, it's the look of the eyes is really up to you, whatever you want for your little ghost boy. Okay, and once you're done with that, you can pull that through. So look, eyes! And what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie these off here. It's just more secure, and then I don't have to worry about anything. So, fingers aren't working. Okay, we're gonna tie it off, and then you can go ahead and just trim that to your liking. And you have a ghost! Super cute and simple! And so what we can see is if, again, we bring the lights over here, stick it through, pop it on, and then they sit. And that's how they sit. Is that not so cute? Because, so, I did initially mess with making the eyes just non-existent, like there's holes, like you can see here. But I wanted it to look like something with the lights on and the lights off. And I think one of these looks more like a ghost with, you know, these not turned on, and that's these guys with the actual eyes. So, there's a ghost. And so that's the end. Super quick, hopefully really simple. I put some more on the strand. So I'm super excited for this project. It kind of came to me randomly out of the blue. So there are 2 more parts to this coming that will contain the instructions and tutorials for the other 4 designs that I have, considering I want to take a slower pace and really try to explain what's going on. I'm splitting them up and not doing them all in one video. So I'm not sure if one will be coming up next week or if I'll have something else, but keep an eye out. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be finishing that and then showing you guys the final product. So I hope this was interesting. I know it's a little bit different than what I do, but hopefully in a good way. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, hope you stuck around to the end. Give it a like and maybe subscribe if you want, so you can follow along with the other, crochet stuff that will be coming and any other artsy stuff. I have some fun things planned for Halloween. I'll have another baking video that I think I'm gonna do. They're gonna do a doodle video. I've got a lot of stuff planned, and I have hopefully a really good idea for something nice and fun for Halloween. So there's a lot of stuff coming. Gothic, spooky, fun things, because that's what I do here. Yeah, leave a comment if you want. Leave a comment telling me whether you like the ghost or the candy corn better. Which design did you think was either the better executed or the more fun? Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!